Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. And like we say every week, we hope perhaps this weekend we can be your vehicle so that voice might just get heard. Now, I've got Gary Miguel with me today. I'm going to bring him in later. I'd like to talk about the media and what effect it is having on the people of this world. I call these people useless idiots, and I honestly think there ought to be some talk about maybe doing something about the First Amendment. These people have to be held accountable for the things that they tell the people, because the people tend to believe everything that they see, hear, or read about. You know, and the news media is, of course, controlled by the leftists. And that's the kind of verbiage they're going to get, you know. And I'm going to bring, in fact, let me bring Gary in. I'd like to know what he thinks about this. Gary, welcome back, buddy. You know, you and I talked a little bit prior to this show, and it is just amazing to me what's happening with the media and how they continue. They're getting worse and worse every single day. And I honestly think there ought to be something done with the First Amendment so that they can't just say anything they want to say. You know?
Well, I think there is limits. In fact, I've seen where there was an arrest of 3 people made.
Good.
That
I didn't know that.
This was going back about a month ago, and they just now getting them arrested for saying something that was illegal.
Yeah.
In other words, and there's a fine line between hollering fire in the theater. And there is no fire.
I imagine that'd be hard to prove, but there's got to be some way, Gary, that these people can be held accountable for the things that they say.
Well, as far as being, if it's illegal, they're going to be having to answer for it.
And we all know that half this stuff that they're reporting is false.
Well, it's false, but see, that doesn't necessarily, at least at this point, mean that it's something that we can curtail.
Yeah. I know that's difficult.
And free speech. I think that people, people are going to hear that over and over, but then little by little, it starts to come out just how false it is. And
the American people are not stupid. Eventually, look what happened with the election.
Yeah.
It took a while, and then all of a sudden they started realizing that, wait a minute, we're listening to this channel, we're listening to that channel, most of which is very liberal left, and this is they started to do things like you said. Their own due diligence. Listen to the Dredge Report. Listen to the Fox channel,
Well, they start to figuring out the common sense or lack of it. And but you got to remember, you got some factions going on there. You have these people being paid to riot.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now, those people don't even vote. They don't care. They're getting paid to get a check, and that's the end of it.
They're not registered voters. So that's already been proven.
But what's going to happen to a number of them is that it's starting to happen now is a number of them are being picked up and being charged with felony.
Good.
Okay, now that's going to slow things down a little bit.
Good. I hope it happens on a major scale so it slows it down fast.
And I think it's going to even get back to the inciting of a riot, which is illegal. And I could be sitting at home and incite a riot somewhere by telling the people to riot.
Sure, absolutely.
And part of the left's, the communist, I call it communist, but basically part of the left's tool is to divide the country and keep it divided.
Which they're attempting to do as we speak.
Which they attempt to do what they speak. And the other one is to create anarchy and unrest so that people become confused.
Which is what's happening
now. Which is what's happening. And then to put racism, and it doesn't matter at one end or the other, okay? Now, they use racism, but that doesn't mean the people they're using it against are racist. In fact, I quite frankly don't.
Of course not. That's already been proven.
How many people do you meet every day that you could say are racist?
Not very many. To tell you the truth, not very many.
I mean, I don't know anyone I talk.
Yeah.
What I would call what they call racist.
Yeah.
No. And
I agree with you totally.
I don't think people. Just like Trump says, he says, "I'm the least racist person there is."
And he is.
Yeah, that's the truth. But they
walk through Trump Towers and see how many people are hired by him.
And he doesn't hire them because they're any color. He hires them because they're qualified.
Because they're qualified.
He doesn't look at a deal and say, well, how many of these do I have? How many of these do I have? No, if they happen to be qualified, he hires them.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to perhaps recognize that, but that's such a small group with
It
a
is.
great big voice,
It
right?
is. It
And the
is.
big voice is, and we went through that here a long time ago about how they go about the communists, the Alinsky.
Yeah.
Okay, one of them is divide the people. Okay, you do it through racism. Is an easy card to play.
Sure it is.
And so they play on that emotion, even though it's obsolete, outdated, or whatever, or not true, one or the other. Okay, they also play on rioting, which creates fear, and people are nervous. Okay, and that creates a different mindset. And then they go into, of course, infiltrating and indoctrinating the school system, which they have done,
Oh,
and they indoctrinate all the way up through the college level. That's all
certainly.
indoctrination. Okay, then they get the press, which they have done, and that's just a propaganda machine for the deep state. Okay, and that's all through the left. Well, that's
this
quite a
is all
battle.
and this is all financed by the elite.
Well, it's all
That's it,
financed
yeah.
by those guys are about to lose trillions of dollars.
Oh, yeah,
but they've had
absolutely.
it. I mean, in this complex, it's a combination, that deep state. It's the industrial military complex, and they want wars, ever so often. And that was Hillary Clinton. I guarantee we'd probably be in a war right now with somebody.
I thought about this the other day, and I almost called you, and I thought, what are we're fighting against the special interest groups.
That's exactly.
That's exactly who we're
It's-
fighting.
and it's
They're the ones that's fueling every single bit of this.
Right, and it's as simple as that, Ray. I mean, we're
I thought about it
fighting
the other
a
night,
simple interest that doesn't have the interest of the people in mind, but has the interest of themselves in mind. Okay, for too long, and we're going way back, and this applies to both Republican and Democrat, and it applies to a lot of people that now are dependent on the government because they were made to be dependent.
Sure they were. I know exactly.
And we're talking about that. So if you look at the Democrats and the Republicans who have an interest only for themselves, which gets back to like Congress and Senate, they run for those offices. They might have some kind of a fairy tale thought about doing some good, but they get there. I mean, it's just like that.
Oh, they become one of the group.
One of the group, okay, which is controlled by what is the deep state. Now think about the fear or the danger of that. The deep state are also bureaucrats in place, okay? Left bureaucrats in place, right? Which does the bidding for the control of the people that you talked about, the elite, right? Okay, now those bureaucrats become entrenched and they become the enemy. But here's the thing that's dangerous. They aren't elected by the people.
That's the scary part.
Okay, guess
It is,
what? And the people that are paying the people, they're not elected by the people. The deep state is not, that's connected with Wall Street,
Sure.
connected with the industrial military complex,
Connected to the media in a
and
sense.
connected, and they
Yeah.
own the media.
Yeah.
They literally own the media. There's none of them that are elected by the people. And that's the danger, because we're being controlled and have been for probably, 50, 60 years, more so now than ever.
More so now than ever.
We've been
Absolutely.
controlled by people who are not elected officials. Run the
How
country.
scary is that?
That is
when
pretty
you think
scary,
about
isn't it? Because heck, we vote, we put people in there, but they don't represent us. So pretty soon, the whole government is this is what's happened, especially under
Oh, they're scared
Obama.
to death, aren't they? Let's think
Well,
about this.
I mean, they're scared to death. But Ray, when you think about what they pass and what they're doing, they're not representing the people.
Oh, I know that.
And they're not
Absolutely
elected
not.
by the people.
Yeah.
Now, how is it that we have gotten to the point to where the people that aren't elected
Are
and not-
controlling.
are controlling our lives as Americans? And
That's why they hate Trump so
well,
much.
of course they hate Trump
Absolutely.
so bad,
You
and
know?
that's why Trump's so important right now, and
Yeah.
we're lucky to have.
We're very lucky to have
Because
him.
otherwise, then we just become something.
Anyone else,
Yeah.
anyone else, even in our party, the Republican Party,
Right.
Cruz or any of those people would have been a disaster.
Well,
They
they-
would have been. They're another one.
And
you
they
know?
could, yeah, and it could be because, okay, let's say that Cruz won or Rubio won or any of them. I don't care who they were, right down to Casey or any of them. They would all be, nothing would change. It would
No.
all be the same control.
because they're a part of the elite. You know, they're part of the.
Part of the-
they're-
well, they're part of the people that have been bought off,
Yeah.
and they have no choice, okay, in the sense that for themselves personally.
Yeah.
So who are they trying to represent They're representing themselves, and they're representing the people that control them.
That's right.
But they're not. It doesn't make sense that it would be otherwise, because they're being controlled by people whose interest is themselves, has nothing to do with the interest of the American people.
All of a sudden, Mr. Donald Trump shows up on the man,
yeah.
the man who is not prone,
Right.
to special interests at all.
Well, you go to a liberal left, and you ask them, so you get into a discussion, which I avoid them people like the plague. But anyway,
I kind of like the confrontation
do you?
every once in a while. Every once
I
in a
don't
while,
like any
gotta
of
admit
it. I mean, I can't stand idiots.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to be around him for any
Oh, my
long
Lord.
period of time.
But
I'll
here's the
agree with
thing, I'll ask like this. I says, who is representing you? Because you're not being represented.
Mm-hmm.
Because the
What do
deep
they
states
say?
control it.
What do they say, Gary?
Well, they'll sit there and say, try to give an answer. I says, now who controls that?
Mm-hmm.
Who you being represented? I voted for Hillary. Well, let me ask you, do you think for a moment that she's cares anything in the world about being representing you? No, she's representing some corporation, some Wall Street or whatever. And that's not just Hillary, that would be
Yeah,
all of them
all of them,
at this point. And Trump comes along, of course, changes all that.
every bit of it.
And he's having some. He's got everything in the world keeps getting thrown at him. But boy, did he handle it today! If you saw that press conference,
if you happen, ladies and gentlemen, to
I
have
haven't.
seen the press conference today, it was outstanding. It was really outstanding, and I think you said Rush Limbaugh said one of the best he'd ever seen.
well, he said the best. He said there's
best.
never been anything
Rush
like
Limbaugh,
it.
yeah.
And it's not just because I didn't have that much time afterwards, but I went through the internet looking at these different places,
Mm-hmm.
where people be commenting. All of them are saying, "Wow, that was unreal." And he said it in a way people can understand it, and he said it using words people can understand. And he just sat there very calmly.
No
Went down the
president
line.
in the history of this great country has ever been bombarded the way that Donald Trump
No.
is being bombarded. And things are coming at him
Right.
from all angles, all different angles, and he's handling every single one of them. He's
Well,
handling-
and we're fortunate because otherwise we would be what he's trying to break is being controlled by a separate government. Obama has 250 cells throughout the United States because their plan is to get rid of Trump. Okay.
yeah, why is he still in Washington?
Very simple. How do they get rich in Washington? The guy's never done. He's never started a business, never had a job,
That's
never
right.
anything. He comes out of there rich.
Yeah, they all do.
They all do. Right.
Special interests. They got to get, they get paid for what they do. They get paid to be told what to do.
They get paid to be told what they do. That's exactly right, and they better do it.
Yeah, we're going to take a little break
Yeah.
here. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 2 and 2. Good show. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I'm back with Gary, and we're discussing useless idiots, and there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, there's a big push right now to see if they can't derail Trump in some way,
I heard they had 650,000 signatures or something like that.
yeah.
Now, that came from them, so I don't know if that
well,
figure's
sure. I mean,
accurate
I
or
don't
not,
care if it's a million, but
Yeah.
the thing is that Obama is in Washington, stayed in Washington for a reason.
Doggone right. No president ever stays.
No,
and
but
I
he
did my
did
due
for a
diligence
reason.
on that.
I mean, if there's anybody that's been paid, it's been him.
Of course.
The guy's never done anything, never started a business, never had a job. Or
Now he's
anything.
worth millions.
Now
I mean,
he's
he was,
worth
he
millions,
was, he
but
was an
yeah.
attorney and a senator.
Well,
and
I
that,
think really what he was is a community organizer, that's what organizes these riots and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. He's got 250 cells out there right now, and strategically located with the idea of disruption, and their whole thing is to stop Trump if they can, because they do not want to see that deep state come to an end. And the reason they don't want to come to an end because they're going to lose trillions and trillions of dollars.
That's why they loved Hillary.
Not billions, but
Not-
trillions. That's
why
right.
they loved Hillary.
Oh yeah, because she was the perfect candidate. If anybody was a perfect candidate for the deep state people, it was Hillary.
Yeah.
So what's happening with Trump? He's just going direct to the people because he knows that the media is also being bought by the deep state people. Who controls that? So the media is controlled, the Congress controlled, the Senate's controlled, except the president now is the only one that's not in and it's not controlled,
Which they hate, of course.
which they hate, of course. So he's going, and then there's a lot of stuff that he would like to do or have done already. One of the worst ones is this leaks that are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
They figure those leaks are coming out of the bureaucrats are left over from Obama.
Exactly.
Okay,
It's what
but the Democrats slow the process of putting Trump's people in so that these people can stay there and disrupt Trump.
Sure. Which is exactly what
And
they're
they're
doing.
dragging it as long as they can, but it's coming to an end.
And I think we're going to see some arrests made, don't you, with this?
Oh, I think so. I think that there are going to be some people that's got to be extremely nervous right now, going all the way, not only just people in Congress or senators, but also people who are bureaucrats that have been, this is illegal.
Yeah.
Okay, now, there's a difference between it being legal and not a crime, you know. Well, this is criminal. And some of those people don't realize that what they're doing is putting themselves in jeopardy, and the reason they don't realize it or care about it, because it's never been enforced before. Because it served the purpose of they
course.
wanted it to serve.
Yeah.
So they circumvent the law, bypass the law, or don't even think about the law. But that's going to come down because we got law and order in there now.
That's right.
Okay.
There's no more chaos.
Ain't
It's,
no more chaos. But interesting, then getting off that a little bit, but I read something interesting about the ISIS thing, you know.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that.
And it kind of goes with that, but it starts with Venezuela, and this is really, really interesting, because Venezuela is a socialist, communist, or whatever you want to call it, right? And there's people starving there. And now that's
And once they were very prosperous.
oh my God! I mean,
Extremely
that's one of the
prosperous.
nicer countries that was in South America. Well, why did it go to all that? Well, it goes to all that because that is where all socialist countries end up, no matter who they are.
Absolutely.
So why
In
would
history.
Americans want to be for something like that? It just doesn't stand to any reason. But the executive vice president of Venezuela, his family was originally from Lebanon, and he was born here. And he's the executive vice president of Venezuela, but he is also comes to be one of the largest drug traffickers in the
Oh, my
world.
goodness.
Think about that. One of the largest drug traffickers in the world, and he's an executive vice president in Venezuela.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, now
What does that tell you?
now he's with the Middle East and drugs all over the world. And I've never heard of the guy, right? I don't even want to say his name because I can't pronounce it. And I just know who he is. And now, what they have finding is that they think they're getting connections between this guy who controls that all over the world.
Which we're talking about billions and billions.
And what
Is he, are they saying, let me see if I can grab where you're going at with this. Are they saying that the possibility that he is financing some of the things that's going on in the Mideast? Because
Well,
I
of
would think
course.
that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's in fact, he's in cahoots with people there in the Mideast, almost every country. In fact, every country.
Well, Gary,
yeah.
that's scary.
Okay, he's also connected with the Mexican president.
Oh, my gosh. And Trump's already made a statement about if you can't control that, we can,
That's right. And so I started reading that, and I don't know, the media is so, you get to where you just don't believe anything it says.
Absolutely.
But anyway, they connected with this Mexican president. And then that connects in, and then it named the list of companies that are involved in this. And the one that really struck me was the name of one of the companies that he's control of is a company called Yakima something.
Yakima?
Yakima. Now, I only know of one Yakima in the world, or there ever would be, and that's the one in Washington.
Absolutely.
But I've heard for years and years Yakima is the drug capital of the Northwest.
Oh, have you? Oh, my goodness.
But I spent, I of course spent a lot of time there in Yakima, but it really is interesting because then it gets to be, well, who else is connected?
Exactly what I was thinking.
And who else is connected in the United States? And I mean, this is just now surfacing,
It's really kind of scary when you think about it.
Well,
It's
Trump
real
turned
scary.
around almost immediately. In fact, this last week, it might have been Monday, he sanctioned that guy, that vice president of Venezuela.
Oh, that's right. Yes, now I remember. Yeah.
Remember that? So they're in the process of getting to the bottom of that deal. And then we get into the it just if it wasn't true, I guess it'd be in the movies or something. But
Yeah.
but my lord, you know that like for instance the ISIS and that group, the Al Qaeda and so forth. Well, I didn't know this, but there are two thoughts on the Muslims, and there's those that are strict. They call the authentic Muslims that go strictly on 100% by that Quran, which
Yeah.
is the ISIS and the Al Qaeda and those. Okay, that's the strict deal. Then they got the reformers, which is
ISIS
they're
and
Muslims.
Al Qaeda, those
yeah,
groups.
Yeah. Okay, so those groups, the reformers, are the ones that feel like the Sharia law should be brought up to modern times, not the authentic.
Yeah.
Guess what? Obama and Hillary support the authentic. There was no ISIS before Obama and no ISIS
there was
before
no
Hillary.
when they
right?
they were totally responsible for ISIS.
Right.
And what happened when they pulled those troops out? ISIS reared its ugly head.
Well, and then that started with Libya. Those people were really ISIS. She was supplying all this help, and
Yeah.
she got rid of a guy. Sure, he was a no good dog, but by God, at least he kept the ISIS out of it. We didn't have ISIS in our country.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, if we look at that there's two thoughts in place with the extreme, what do they call them, Muslims, and those that are reformers. Now, I think about that because I'm a Catholic, and I think about this, Ray. I remember the Catholic religion, when you go to church, it was all Latin. The Mass was Latin.
Oh, I remember Latin Mass. I was an altar boy.
Okay, then you remember that, all
Yeah.
right? Now, all of a sudden it changed to English or it go any native language. Oh, the people, there's a lot of people in a total uproar over that. They
I know
wanted,
that.
even though they didn't understand a word of it, they wanted it to
They
stay.
wanted it to stay the way it was. Yeah.
So think of Muslims that are feeling that should stay verbatim
The Quran.
the Quran. Okay, so that's your extremists, which we think of as extremists, which is ISIS and Al Qaeda and that. Go clear back, Now Hillary and Obama side with that group, but there's this other group, which is the reformer. Okay, now let's talk about that. Who are these people? And this is what Trump's trying to work. He said he doesn't know for sure if he's going to be able to do it, but he thinks that he has a possibility of bringing these together, and that would be, the leader would be the Egyptian president.
Oh my goodness.
The Egyptian president is of the reformer group, and it's also Saudi Arabia, which also includes,
Jordan. wouldn't it?
I think, Jordan and
I read
Israel.
of course. Yeah.
In Israel, but he's trying to form an axis beginning with possibly Iraq, but beginning with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, and then forming an axis of this reformer type that would then be in a position to do something about the other part.
I like that.
You see, so there's
That would not surprise me.
well, if you think about it, okay, who come over here? Well, Netanyahu's over here. Okay, who comes right after him? Egypt. Who comes after that? Saudi Arabia, scheduled. So there's a reason for all that,
Sure there is.
So I feel a little bit optimistic that way. I think
I just went over and did. I wasn't even doing due diligence on anything, and found out almost verbatim what you just told us.
Really?
Yeah, this week.
Well, that's what I found out.
Yeah, and they said, I think they did include Jordan, and I think there was another country, but they said that his meeting with Netanyahu was the beginning of what could be very, very positive for the Middle East.
I didn't realize that Egyptian president was so. I don't know. He just seems to be so ahead of his time in the sense that when we think of time, when we talk about ISIS and that, I mean, the guy's an outstanding, absolutely outstanding guy. This Egyptian. His name's. It's kind of like ISIS. Also, his last name. And but anyway, he's important. In fact, probably the most important of all of them that are involved with the more moderate Muslim.
Boy, would that change things? I mean,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going to get rid of ISIS, but would that change things tremendously in that country and for those people?
But what
you know?
gets me is why would Obama and Hillary support the radical? Why are they supporting, or why would they support the radical Islam or the radical Muslim? When I mean, let's face it, I didn't have anything against a Muslim. Did you? I didn't
No.
know anything about it hardly.
No.
Well, why wouldn't they support the more reformed Muslim? And why
It
not?
has to be economics.
It has to be. Money somewhere.
economics.
And-
Money somewhere.
Yeah, and it has to do with chaos and disruption.
Yeah.
And our country is. I feel optimistic we're coming out of it, but man, we got a long way to go as far as these cells and this organization, because Obama is a organizer,
Oh, I understand he is.
and that's why he's in Washington, to disrupt and destroy Trump's presidency.
And I'm just going to go out and say it. What you said, and you didn't say it on radio, so I'll get all the blame for it. but I'll just say this. I mean, it's Soros, it's Obama, it's Clinton.
Yeah.
Who else is backing this movement? It's got to be those three. It's got to be them.
How's that?
Obama, Soros, and Clinton.
Well, they're backing it, but outside of Soros, Clinton and the Obamas are strictly representing people that
Or like Soros.
they're like Soros, and take the Koch brothers. You've heard.
Oh, yes.
They're part of that
Sure.
deep state, and you take the Bushes. Mm-hmm. They're part of that deep state. I mean, when you look back on it, we had no business going to war in Iraq, and the only reason we went there is because of Bush.
Yep.
And we look back on it. Well, we look at back, say 2020, we say, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. But they knew we shouldn't have done it at the beginning. It's just that they fooled the American people because of what? Control of the press.
Someone said this week, and I thought it was hilarious. They said, "Call a Bush a Bush." I like that. You're right, Gary.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So somebody had enough influence, at that time to influence the press. So I'm sitting out there. I remember at the time, I'm sitting out there, fat, dumb, and happy, listening to the press and say, "Boy, I can't wait. We knocked that Saddam Hussein out of there."
Guess what happened? Because we'd all been brainwashed into that.
Well, I mean, that's all it turned out. There was no weapons of mass destruction.
None. Soon as he leaves, ISIS raises its ugly head, and we've had ISIS ever since.
And we hunted him out, pulled him out of a hole like a gopher, and hung him. And when in actuality, there would be no ISIS today had Saddam
No, there wouldn't have been.
No, in fact,
absolutely not.
I mean, he was a no good critter, and
Yeah.
so was that other guy, Gaddafi.
Yeah.
But they got the other critters instead of them coming over and getting us.
Exactly.
You know
they
what
got
I mean?
the other critters.
Yeah. So I say, well, let Saddam alone, let Gaddafi alone, and old Hillary's over there just getting rich off all that.
Her foundation is blowing up at the seams.
Well, the left. Well, what is the left? I'm tired of what is the left. The left are communists.
yeah.
I mean, that's it.
I mean, it is, Gary. I agree with you.
I mean, they think like communists. It's back to that old deal. Walks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck. It must be a duck.
a duck.
And that's just, and if you go by what Communist Manifesto is, and what Alinsky and these people, Marx and that, and you'll go back and look at that, and then look at what they're doing. It's just right there. I mean, we read it here one day.
Sure, we
Yeah.
did on the show about 4 or 5 months ago, or a month ago or so. I
And
remember.
so they got in power, and they kept power for almost to the point where we were right on the edge, and
Yeah.
all we need a little wind blow, and we'd have been on the other end. That's how close it came, and how important it was at this election. But it's got somebody like Donald Trump come along. That had to be a divine intervention.
Yes. And somebody said that. Remember, we talked about that on the show a few shows back. Well, Gary, what do you think about the ban? Now, he talked a little bit about that this morning at the press conference, and said that they had some things, they were working on some things, some appeals and things that were going to happen here real quick.
Well, he's resubmitting his order to the Ninth Court.
Does it go back to the Ninth
Yeah,
Appellate Court?
yeah,
Whoa. Yeah.
or the Ninth District.
Yeah.
Okay, and now what he's asking is that more than just 3 people review it.
Oh, good.
See,
good.
okay, that's where he's gone with that. In the meantime, what he's doing is he cranked up the screws on vetting. I mean, it is as
Exactly what
tough
we
as it can get.
Yeah.
And so he thinks he probably will, without having to go to Supreme Court and do all that, that he hopes that this, going back to the 9th District, that it will be approved and he could reinstall
The ban.
the ban, you know. And then also, he's cranked up the vetting, okay? And, but what's interesting, what's actually going along the borders are, you know, that the people are so afraid to come across now that they've had to shut down some of those detentions because there are not enough people to put in there that they're catching.
I didn't know that. That
Yeah.
is good
Yeah,
news.
they're not
That
going
is
across
very
the
favorable
border.
news.
Last night I was talking to some Mexicans that are, some of them were legal, well, they all were legal, but some of them at one time were from Mexico. Some of them were born here. And we were talking about that. And it's interesting how, compared to what you hear in the Mexican radio stations they're in, that's all left wing, that's all communist and all
I
that.
know that.
and
Yeah,
corrupt as
absolutely.
hell. But I listened to the common people, and they, like they said, he said, there's only one reason, because that's one in particular, he says, there's only one reason that we're up here. This is not our home. Our home is Mexico. But there's only one reason we're up here, because of a corrupt government in Mexico.
Yeah.
So these all of them agreed with this part. They said that all of a sudden we started seeing this country getting as corrupt and going along the same path as Mexico.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. Oh, they said, man, he says, all of a sudden I got a fear about, I've started seeing this country, and they voted, well, I guess they voted, but anyway, they supported Donald Trump, which surprised me. You know.
They saw the
'cause
light,
there was
yeah.
about, I don't know how many were there, maybe about 10 people, I guess. And, but all of them, they come up with good points, you know, and that they were afraid of with Trump, you know. And, but they were very much.
That's real interesting.
Well, like I asked them, I said, okay, you was in Mexico and stuff. Wouldn't you like to go home? That's your house. That's your home, you know. And it is beautiful, that country.
I
you
know it is.
And they said, yeah, but you can't make a living there. You get $1 a day, and here you get $10 an hour or something, you know, or $10 a day, and here you get $10 an hour.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
There's
and
no
he
comparison,
said, no,
yeah.
he said, you got to come up here. That's all there is to it. But what's happening is people are afraid because of this deportation that's going on. So what they have to make a decision. Let's say you and I was up here and we are illegal. We're going to make a decision now. We can come back, but we come back legal. Let's go back there now when we don't have a record of being picked up for.
Absolutely.
So
And
that
become
we're-
legal.
yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
So who's going to be favored? The person that has nothing on his record, or the people that have committed a crime, because it's a crime to be here illegal.
Yeah.
So obviously the people
Sure.
that have a clean slate.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, they figured, I don't know, 2 or 3 million have already gone back.
Oh, that many.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
And these people are afraid, you know, and of course there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that gets fueled by that
my
Ramos,
goodness.
that Mexican guy that
Yeah.
has that agenda, he has that radio, the Univision. He cranks out so much BS, it's not even.
That's Local 21 here, isn't it?
I don't know what it
I
is, but
think it
man,
is.
I'll tell you. Well, and people, some of those people are starting to, they hear it, of course, they listen to it, but they're starting to get wise to that guy. He's as bad as any of those people that come on, you know, like CNN. You know?
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
You know, I mean, he's
Talk
a
about one-sided.
Yeah. Oh, he's
My
a propaganda
goodness.
guy. He's got an agenda.
Yeah.
And he doesn't half the time. He doesn't talk smart. You know what I mean? It doesn't make. He can't. You go over and over with it, and it doesn't make sense. Some of the stuff that he talks about. So I don't know. I think that he's kind of a. He's getting to be seen more and more by the Mexican people as, man, maybe he's not. He's not all.
They're
we should
waking up,
just
aren't
listen.
they?
Oh yeah,
And
they
they're starting
are.
to realize.
I'm really impressed with that. I mean, I talk these people like I was with last night. I mean, some of them were born here. All of them had parents that was born, you know, in Mexico. But I'd say, well, at least half of them were born in Mexico. Okay, would they go back to Mexico? Some of them would, but some like living here. But they said that the big problem, and that is is the corruption of the government itself. So you take Fox, that Fox Defende, whatever his name was, you know what I'm talking
Yeah, I
about?
know the guy.
Okay, and that's all connected with the drug deal. And it's a worldwide thing. Now, we don't know how far or where that's going to lead, you know.
Oh my gosh, that is going to be interesting to see.
And that is in process right now. Now, if you think about this now, if Trump, he sanctioned that vice president.
Venezuela.
Right. Now, if he sanctions him, doesn't that mean that maybe everyone that is connected with him
Would be sanctioned as well. I would think so.
Yeah, it becomes
Yeah,
yeah,
I would
it
definitely
becomes
think that.
suspicious of maybe, wait a minute, where's this going, you know? And I think some of the talks that maybe that Trump's having with the president of Mexico may involve cleaning up the drug deal. But
Well, he made an open statement, remember?
Well, and I
a couple
kinda-
of weeks ago?
Right.
About if they can't do it,
Right.
this is affecting this country. And so we'll step in and take care of it. I love that positiveness that he's
But I think this president of Mexico may have his hands tied. I don't know how far he's involved. Do you see what I mean?
Well, yeah, he could be in the middle of that cartel,
Oh,
couldn't
man, I never see him with a happy face. Have you?
he? No.
And so Trump built him up, but I guess that's what he should do.
Yeah.
You know. But I talked to the Mexican people. I haven't heard any of them that are here that I talked to anyway say anything good about him.
Oh, is that right?
That surprises me. But no, they don't say a thing.
He could very well be in the middle of this. Like you said, we don't know how high this thing is going to go. Gary, we're going to go ahead and take a break here. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll be right back with Gary Miguel here and say 2 and 2. Okay, we're back. I'm back with Gary, and we're discussing a lot of things. One of the things we're discussing is these useless idiots that are out there doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and building up. I understand they have a list, Gary. I think we talked about that of some 650,000, and you said I don't care if they have a million, and I agree with you totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're well, the whole thing is an organization that's organized, and it's going to be, I think, more organized as far as organization. However, what I think is also going to happen is Trump and his side of it is going to start really getting down to the last period in the law. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is already working to a great effect. Think about this. In the short period of time, we're talking about the immigration. We're talking about the flow
Look at
from
the things
Mexico.
he's done. Yeah.
Those people are staying home. Why?
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to come over here until they see what happens in
Yeah.
terms of
Sure.
being over here legally.
Yeah.
Now, if you think for 1 minute that those people are not needed here, then you're smoking a pipe.
Yeah.
They are needed, but they need to be protected. They need to have laws,
They need to be here legally.
and they have to be here legally.
Yeah.
And when I say legally, that's it. But I mean, somewhat really, like a driver's license. You know that you can go to L.A. and go down
Oh, I
there
know
and
that,
buy
yeah.
a driver's license, and you don't even know how to drive a car.
Yeah.
You couldn't drive a tricycle,
Sure.
but you could get a driver's license.
It's authentic, just like the one that you and I carry.
Well, you wouldn't
Yeah.
know the difference,
No.
you know. And that kind of stuff has got to come to a
It does.
halt. You
It
know?
does.
And
It
it will.
does.
It will, little by little. It's already having an effect. Even though you got to remember the Democrats, I call it the left or communists, but they're purposely slowing down so that Trump doesn't have his team. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
first he starts with one, and now he still has people he needs to put in there.
Oh, I know it.
So
And
it's being run by the asylum. Mm-hmm. You know, the bureaucrats that are in there, that's been in there for a long time, and they don't have the interest of the American
And the
people
left
in mind.
continues to fight like hell to prevent this.
Yeah, but they do not have the
thwart him
American,
at every
no,
angle.
They
Yeah,
do
which
not
is what
have the
they're doing.
American people in interest in mind, and so that's become a real hazard for Trump in the sense that he cannot get going fast enough at this point.
Yeah.
But if he had all those people in place that can go in there and ferret out those that should be,
Mm-hmm.
well then, yeah, the things that move along a little a little bit better.
And he's talked a little bit about that. I mean, the people that he has in place now, Mattis and those people are already starting to do things from their perspective. And so, like you said, he'll take care of this too. It's just getting the right person in the right position.
And it's interesting how fast it's happening. I was really impressed with this about the people coming over here across the border there in Mexico. They're really slowing this thing down a little bit.
See, I didn't know that. I'm glad you.
Well, they're out picking people up. We don't hear about it.
No, we don't.
No, and so there's people out there that I never dreamed of getting picked up, in the past, but
Now they're concerned.
yeah,
because
and they're
they know
making
it's
a
gonna-
decision. I would too. I'd
Yeah.
sit there saying, "Now, do I wait for them to pick me up, or they'll go back and come back legal with a clean slate?"
Exactly.
So, but Ray, we was talking about. I wanted to mention a little bit about that Orville Dam.
Oh yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, that dam went through neglect for 12 years. They were warned that something should be done about that. Of course, Trump talks about the entire country infrastructure needs to
Exactly,
be done, right?
yeah.
That's a very
That's
big
true.
issue, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And Trump has a mind to get with that real quick. Well, that Orville Dam is almost like the I don't know, the milk carton child as far as an example of what happens when you neglect something.
Yes.
And the money was put into social things like sanctioned cities and all that, right? Oh yeah, that goes into that, but doesn't take care of the dam.
Yeah.
Common sense says that dam needs to be kept up.
Absolutely. Look at the situation they've got right now.
Well, it's of course mandatory evacuation. Now think if you had to evacuate your house, how much trouble that would be.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding? I'm so fortunate I've never had to do that.
Oh my! I lived by a river, and we always were afraid of that when there was flood. We never had to, but we had our everything packed.
Well, I lived in Corsico for years. Would love to be back living there now. I want to go to Mariposa, is where I really want to
Yeah,
go. I
that's
love it up there. But Corsico is known for having fires, 2 or 3 a year. And I remember once they came in and told us if it gets to the top of that hill, then you have to evacuate, And I remember getting everything together and doing all the stuff and getting ready. And then I had animals.
Ooh,
I had
that's
a ton of
yeah.
animals, and I'm concerned about them.
Oh,
and
that's
probably the best thing you can do with animals, especially big animals, is turn them loose and let them fend for themselves. And I didn't want to do that.
So-
Well, fortunately, it didn't happen. But
Well,
I
yeah, it
know
is
the
for-
panic. Yeah.
They went to knocking on the doors of evacuation. Went to this one guy up there, and he did not want to evacuate. He thought it wasn't necessary for him to evacuate. But no, you got to, and they go like that. And he had animals too,
Yeah.
And he says no. He says I'm not going to evacuate. And boy, they said it was mandatory.
He had
You
no
had
choice.
to. In fact, they said we're going to force you
To
bodily out of here. And he says, "Well, I'm going to evacuate." He says, "But I'll tell you what, that dam better break for your sake."
That's a cowboy. That's a cowboy. I love it. I love it.
So he thought, "Boy, I tell you, it better break if I go through all this."
Well, Gary, I got to tell you again, what a pleasure it was to have you on the show, young man. I love having you on here every week. You
Well, there's so
inform
much
the people.
material.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We try to inform. We hope we did inform you, ladies and gentlemen, today. That is our job, to do that and to do it as accurately as we can. And that's one reason why I love having Gary come. He sends me the best emails, and I mean, it informs me, and I in turn get to inform you, and having him on this show informs you even further. So I'm going to turn to him again and ask him about next week. How does it sound?
Well, hey, it looks like it's going to rain,
Well,
but I got boots.
I love that. That's a yes, I take it.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end the way I always end, because I'm really fond of our law enforcement all over this country. I feel bad for the people that we've lost, which was way too many. One is way too many. So I ask you, as I ask you every single week, when you see a law enforcement officer, go up and tap him on the shoulder, stick your hand out, shake his hand, and thank him for the thankless job that he has with little pay. And there's not enough of us that go up and say, talk to them and tell them how we feel about things. And so please, when you see one, go up, shake his hand, tell him how much we appreciate him. I think it'll make him feel great. So until we meet joyously again on next Thursday, heaven's blessings.